Aye, well
It's
done.
me.
I thought you forgot your name there. And we've got a special guest tonight. We've got Louis from the band Admiral Fallow. How are
How you
you?
doing? Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Aye, no worries, no worries. We've always got something to fill the international break with. So it's
Here
great
I
you've
am.
came. Here you are, and you were at the game tonight,
I
Louis.
was, I
What
was
do you
just
think?
saying before we started, took my wee boy, he's 6. It was his first Scotland game, and we stay quite near Hampden actually, so I'd been sort of threatening to take him to what I thought was going to ultimately be a Hibs game for his first Hampden experience, but we've not quite we've not
No,
quite
yeah,
managed to get there
yeah.
in the time he's been kind of aware of football, eh? So, aye, it was interesting. It's quite interesting watching the games obviously live because you don't sort of your thoughts on it don't get kind of coloured by the commentary team, kind of what they're
Aye,
saying. There was parts of it I thought were good. Obviously like some good individual performances. Ben Doak obviously is bringing that kind of getting folk on their feet a wee bit
aye.
more than players in those kind of positions have done in more recent years. And I thought Billy Gilmore had a good game. So there was good bits in it.
Hmm. He's a good
Um,
player, Gilmore. I
get,
just thought that was maybe a bit far forward tonight. He was like, and Kenny McLean was sort of sitting, getting into all boring stuff, but Kenny McLean was just on the pitch, like taking up space that Gilmore normally takes up. We better him back there, and we could have played somebody else.
I don't remember many moments where I thought McLean was doing an awful lot. I quite like him. Obviously, with the two boys getting yellowed in the previous
Hmm.
game, he's obviously been forced into changing a few things. But I sort of, when I watch Gilmore, it reminds me a wee bit of the way he sort of moves the ball around. It reminds me a wee bit of like McGeoch in his prime with us,
Hmm.
like the same kind of almost like caressing the ball about a wee bit. I don't know if there's a similar kind of like way that they put the foot through the ball. So I'm enjoying watching him. And like I say, there was good bits, but mostly I was sort of dealing with my wee laddie kind of just asking to leave basically and being a bit
I
cool.
can imagine. I was in the living room watching it, and I was asking if I could leave. Should say like some folk that are eagle-eyed, I'll notice there's somebody not here tonight, and that I'm hosting. It's you're right. He's not here, but we can't really talk about it. I think while the investigation's ongoing, we're not really meant to mention it, so we'll just probably leave that there for now. Do you watch the Scotland game, John?
I did. I
Aye.
did. I was I was watching it in the house, and it's interesting what Louis says about things being coloured by the commentary, because not I don't even just mean like the commentary for the pundits, etc., the commentators. It was like the WhatsApp group chats that they were talking about
Aye.
Gannon Doak and how he was quite exciting on the ball, but the end product wasn't quite
Rubbish.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Aye,
get, I
exactly.
get annoyed.
Aye.
That
Go
was it.
for
It
it.
was, it was so good, going past the guys like three, four, five times, and then like no ball, and no, never
Mhm.
picked anybody out. But I'm sure they can work on that. He does
Uh,
look. He was burning the boys down the wing, like.
There was a couple of moments where he was in sort of kind of crowded out by 3, 4, 5 players and sort of getting out of those sort of tight situations, which I don't think there's anyone else in that squad that's kind of capable of that. And the final, and obviously his gas, like he's very quick.
Hmm.
So those are two very good things to have in the locker at such a young age. And obviously, like you say, the final ball. There's been plenty of players over the years that have lacked that kind of final piece in the puzzle. And hopefully, since he got his move to Bournemouth, he'll hopefully get a few more minutes. And
Aye, or
so he's an
aye,
exciting one.
maybe we'll get him on loan. Who knows? We might have a tie up with him. Remember?
Apparently so. I don't remember the last time we benefited for that, mind you. But
Yeah,
it's,
that's it. I
it's
think.
it's shared best practices. That's all we're getting, whatever they are.
Um, Actually, John, you do me a favour. Keep an eye on the score in the Greece game, because that'll be half time ish over there now, won't it? So,
Ah, sure.
um, I think that'll. If Greece lose tonight, we're guaranteed second place. Obviously, we want first place, but we'll be guaranteed second if they lose. And I was of the opinion that I'll take the draw, and then if we win our last two games, we'll win the group. But I'm not sure we can win our last two games based on what I've seen in the last two games. So
well,
Louis,
uh,
I don't know
let's
if you've
just get
listened
Greece
to us
out of there.
before. I don't know if you've listened to Long Byers before,
oh, I'm
Louis, but
a long time fan, long time listener.
Colin is very pragmatic, never takes the draw. Sorry, he's anti-pragmatic. He doesn't want the draw. We should be beating these teams.
Aye.
Well, Denmark are currently 3 up at half-time against Greece,
So we're almost guaranteed second
so
place then.
almost
That's it.
guaranteed.
Yep.
It's a fight out with them. Nah, like who knows if we perform anything like the last two performances in those final two games, I don't see us getting much from it. But I don't know. Stranger things have happened, and the game the other night was so poor, and to come away with a scoreline that sort of favourable. You never know. You never know what will happen. And there's obviously there's a bit of time now before those next fixtures, obviously, to just kind of, I don't know, hopefully the players that are in his mind for a starting kind of berth for those two fixtures do well in the interim and at their clubs and get good minutes and stuff like that. And who knows what will
I
happen.
quite like the way they're doing that this time. I know it's only 4 in the group, but the 2 games September, 2 games October, 2 November, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate the international breaks, like for a Hibs point of view, because it breaks any momentum. Not that we've got any, but breaks the season up. But the qualifying, I seem to remember, like when I was younger, it could go on like a year and a half, and you're waiting to. Whereas it's over here in 3 months. It's
I
pretty
suppose
good.
the good part, if you do have momentum as a national team, is that you're obviously getting those games played in quite
Aye.
a tight amount of time. But I don't know, is that benefiting us just now? I mean, we're getting the results, like you said.
Aye, well,
So,
that's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, that's enough on Scotland. Folk
Mm-hmm.
will be switching off in their droves.
Already.
So we're here to talk to you, Louis. Right? Tell us about. So you're a Hibs fan, as you've said, and a Longbangers fan, which I didn't know. But what are you originally? You said you stay in Glasgow. You originally from over here? Is that how you're a Hibs fan, or tell us about your history?
Aye, a part of it, aye. So I live in Glasgow now, have done since I was 18, but until then I was staying out in the south side of Edinburgh, grew up there, went to school there, went to high school out in Pennycook in
Right.
Midlothian. So I grew up around loads of mostly Hibs and Hearts fans. And yeah, my uncle, who I actually was mentioned on the podcast a few weeks back when you had your last international break guest on, whose name escapes me for the
Frank.
moment, sorry.
To be frank, Kevin.
Yes,
Kevin
Kevin,
Christie.
aye. So Kevin, who was, for those who missed it, like mentioning this new novel that he's written, and at one point just threw away a comment about learning journalism for a guy that worked at one of the colleges, I think. That just happened to be my uncle, John,
All
who's
right.
a big hibbie, and he took me and my older brother to our first games sort of early 90s. He'd watched the Hibs since the kind of the 60s, 70s. I think he once told me sort of anecdotally that um, the first Hibs game I went to was when we beat Barcelona at Easter Road, and
That's it.
the first single I ever bought was like a Rolling Stone by Dylan. So it was kind of like my life was pretty fucked for then on in. Sort of like everything was going to be a disappointment after those two things. So he took me and my older brother along to our first games in the sort of 93, 94 season it was. I looked it up actually. Just
Aye, good, because I was going to ask you what your sort of year it is.
aye. So Keith Wright, Jim Leighton,
Yeah.
Nicky Weir, that kind of team. So a good time. Obviously, we would have just come off the back of a League Cup win, and it was a decent team at that time. So Clyde, we went to Clyde in the Cup, January or something, absolutely Baltic. Don't remember much about the game, but a game against Aberdeen like a few weeks after that, and just like it just took us a couple of times, sort of quite speculatively, and I would have been 6, so I don't remember too much from it, but like kind of got bit enough to want to go back. He bought us a scarf each and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff I'm sure we've all got our own versions of this.
Yeah.
Family member or pal or friend of the family taking you to the game for the first time, and just how that's such a kind of informative early memory for a lot of folk. So aye.
So you've
It's
got
funny.
Clyde. Sorry, John. You've got Clyde and your uncle Barcelona.
There
Not
you
bad.
go. Aye, levels.
It's funny because I had lots of similar stories from old man. So he told me about going to like the uh, New Year's Day game, 1973, and like chucking bottles into like big cages and stuff like that. And there was books and there was stories for like I think my granddad about did Juventus come to Easter Road? I think there was a story about Dino Zoff, like they
Mhm.
thought that they were so far ahead they left him at home.
The Napoli, is it?
Or Napoli, sorry. So we got stories like that, and then we've got none of that at all.
I think it was Clyde. I think it was snowing. No, I know. Well, obviously, like I've got a couple of wee ones, and I'm sort of, I guess, the mythology I'm trying to pass on more recently is the 2016 Cup final, and we've watched that videos, loads of videos like that a bunch of times. And actually, we were sat in the South Stand tonight when we went to the Scotland game, just behind that corner flag where the Liam
Hibs
Hibbs
end.
corner came
Aye.
in. Exactly, aye. So, I told like one of the first things I said to him when we sat down is, "Can that video we've watched a million times? That's the corner flag." And of course, he's sort of going, I don't, cool. I don't know, cool.
Okay.
So I think that's like maybe a wee bit, he's needing that a wee bit later in his life. But aye, we've got to sort of rewrite the mythology a wee bit because there was enough sort of, well, there was just not much going on in that sort of period of the 90s through the early noughties, probably until Mowbray's team came along. Apart from like so the Athens game, I got my first season ticket when I was maybe 9 or 10. I was still in primary school and got out with my pals, two of my pals, and we went, and it was like a really dire season, but Athens was part of that season, and that was kind of like, again, one of the only things that really sticks in my mind of that season is that. So, aye, we've got to, let's hope there's a bit more of a more sort of contemporary, fresh mythology that we can bring up the next generation on that isn't just Clyde in the 90s.
Aye, exactly. So when you were going through the 90s and that, have you got like, what's your sort of favourite players and all that for those eras? You named them already. Is that the ones that the four that you already said?
Well, it's funnily enough, actually. I played a wee bit. I mean, I was terrible. Like, and when I got to high school, my school never had a team, so um, football just kind of stopped for me around 11, 12. But I played quite a lot in my primary school days, and I played on the right, so it was usually whoever was playing there. So like your Mickey Weirs and Kevin McAllister's Larley. I feel like Tony Rougier was sort of out that side, his brief time with the club. Like players like that, just the ones a bit like the Gannon Doak sort of style player where it was like try and beat the man and get to the
Yeah.
byline. So those are the players that kind of excited me. Um, it's funny, Jim Leighton was actually on the cover of the programme for the game tonight. A sort of like, what do you call it? A sort of cartoon-like sort of image of him. And I think I didn't realise at the time that he wasn't really like Aberdeen was his team and obviously Man United, but I sort of remembered him as being like the Hibs goalie. And when he went to the World Cup, the last one it would have been obviously. I remember like being really proud that there was like a Hibs player in the team. So I probably players like that. Aye. And Keith Wright ended up teaching my big brother how to teach young kids how to play football kind of thing. Because I think he stays out Midlothian kind of way, and my brother teaches out there now at one of the primary schools. So there's a few players that sort of have gone through that. Again, that kind of formative early years, so you get
Yeah.
attached to like weirdly Darren Jackson in a very strange way would have been one of those players because again, when you're a kid, you're not always told that. Oh no, you didn't want to be you didn't want to be going after him. He's for the other team kind of thing, and obviously moved to Hearts after
But
Hibs. But
he was good at Hibs though, wasn't he?
he was good. He was good, and we had him at a good time. And I actually bumped into him at I think it was the very first um, Transmit. He was there. I don't know
Mhm.
why he was there because Radiohead were playing that night. It doesn't strike me as a Radiohead
A
fan.
chauffeur
Darren
business.
Jackson.
He was maybe driving them about.
Maybe. It didn't look
Let's.
like he was working. It definitely didn't look like he was driving.
No, he's sitting.
That night, I pulled him aside. I was like, "Oh mate," and I was like telling him and all that stuff. And I honestly think I think he thought I was taking the piss out of him, but I just remembered him as just being a good player for Hibs and not necessarily all the baggage that players like that came with.
Do you think that's something that's been lost from like club and international supporters, like the player that plays for your team and the pride when they go and get called up and score for the national side? Like, because I've seen a few conversations recently about like Bowie getting called up and it being maybe a waste of time because he's not had any game time until tonight, just a few minutes. It seems to
Mm.
be like a different. It seems to be that players being called up for national teams kind of viewed through a different lens now.
Does that maybe matter in terms of which club you support? So I feel like it's not always the case that Hibs players get called up. So when they do, like obviously McGinn when he was with us, got got a few calls before he left and did well. I think personally I still feel the pride of players like when I seen Mulligan get the late call up today. I was obviously fairly confident he wouldn't get on the pitch, but obviously you're also going that's really good. That's a good sign for like likes of him and Bowie that they're getting that sort of recognition even at the age and stage they both are. Because I think it's easy to forget that Bowie's also quite a young player, and there's not loads of players coming through in that position. at an age that feels still exciting, you know. So I don't know. I still enjoy it when you see a Hibs name or two popping up on the sort of squad long list. I would far prefer that than like, you know, um, the boys getting called out to Australia for games and not even getting, sometimes not even
Yeah.
making the bench. You know what I mean? You're kind of going, likes of Boyle's coming back, seemingly not that full of energy, and he's barely even getting any time. So I guess it's a safe one calling up two Scottish players, Scottish-based players for internationals that are here at home as well, because there's no sort of travel and stuff involved. Anyway, kind of going off on
Now
a
that must
tangent
take.
here.
It's a fair point about that though, Boyle. I mean, every month flying out there and back for a few days. I'm not going
I,
to make. I'm not
I,
getting. I'm not for one getting excuses, but I mean that must sap you a bit.
Iredale went out to the last camp and never even made the bench.
Mm,
It's kind of
yeah.
like I know he wants to go out and represent his country, and I do hope he gets the chance to do that. But it wasn't in the best form for us at that time, and you could argue Boyle probably hasn't been either. And there they are, spending a lot of the time of those weeks like traveling. It's tricky. It's tricky. You wouldn't want to, as a player, you wouldn't want to turn down the call, obviously. But I do wonder if it's been part of a wee bit of a downturn in form, particularly for Boyle.
Do you think Hibs should employ a you're not going away, you're not going on holiday unless you buck your ideas up?
They should, but they can't, because the FIFA rules don't allow it.
Oh,
I don't know
oh,
how.
you're not allowed to block an international call up, is that a thing?
I'm sure, or it used to be.
Mm.
I'm assuming it's never
Aye.
changed.
Mm.
These things, those sorts of like bits of terminology used to be quite almost at the forefront of your mind, but now I'm like scratching in the recesses, like,
Mm.
was that real? When is that still a thing?
Because Alex Ferguson used to just tell players they were injured. Like
Mm.
you are fucking injured. You're not going
Mm.
anywhere.
Mm.
But I think you can't. Like pretty well, I assume that you can't. Like you've got to pretend you're
I would
injured.
imagine like that happens more. I'm sure I can't remember the specific instance, but in the last couple of seasons, I remember there being players near the end of a league season, sort of being, you know, you're imagining their managers phoning up the national manager and going, any chance you'd at least limit the game time? We've got a cup final coming up or something like that, Champions
Yeah.
League, blah blah. But aye, not a problem for Hibs, I suppose.
Well, 3 now. Are you getting along Easter Road often? I know you stay through there, but you
Um,
getting along much?
I get along as much as I can, which since having the two wee ones has obviously been
Mm.
harder. Also, me and my wife's work situation is such that like there's no, it's quite sort of there can be times where we're both working on the weekends kind of thing. So I've not been able to commit to a season ticket since the kiddos were born, but I get along as much as I can. I would say at least a handful of sort of league games every season, and then obviously a few games during the European run just there earlier in the season, which was exciting. And I love going to the football at that time of year as well, just with the lighter nights and
Shorts and t-shirt on now.
shorts and t-shirt and just like more relaxed drinking laws in Edinburgh than there are on the streets in Glasgow,
Mm.
unfortunately. So aye, so as much as I can, but if I can't, I'll watch them when they're on the telly and just put the kids in front of a phone or something like that to distract them. I just think it'd be in a period in my life that I'm happy to sort of sacrifice the football, and hopefully in years to come I'll be able to take the boy with me and maybe his sister as
Aye.
well if she's interested.
Well,
So.
I think I certainly went through that
Mhm.
period as well. It does go. John's probably a similar. Not quite. You're still managing it along, John, aren't you? But you've got the two wee
I
ones as well. So
not get into as many away games, but I think we did the sort of initiation during a pre-season game. I think actually, ironically, it was against Clyde. I was won 5-0. Melkerson scored. So that was my firstborn's first game at Easter Road, and I took her down to Hibs Livy recently, and I think was it Cliche scored, and then Mulligan scored later on. But
I mind you telling the story on the podcast of leaving early because you had to get
yeah,
away. Aye.
aye. So we left while the going was good. So
Aye.
I no, I still get down like for the away games. Like we'll sit and watch on the TV, and that is quite a. I'd quite like. I know it's. I don't know if I'm from an era where it was like dads took sons and daughters kind of got left to the side, but
Mm.
obviously we're all modern men, so I'm quite keen to take it along and get involved in football as much as possible. Because if I don't, Colin will probably give me a doing.
mm.
Aye, of course. And part of the big sort of thing that you tend to hear quite a lot about the women's games for both like national team and Hibs is that they can be a lot kind of a wee bit more sort of family friendly and maybe a bit more stuff for younger folk, younger minds to kind of take in and enjoy. I've got a wee daughter as well who'll be 3 next month, so obviously any football for her is probably a wee bit premature for that. But aye, same deal. Like we'd be up for taking both of them along, and she's got some wee tops and all that as well because she likes to copy her big brother. So aye, definitely a good result for the women's team today.
I've just got to
Actually,
say that they came for 2-0 down to beat Rangers 3-2. So obviously a good, obviously a result that everybody likes hearing.
aye,
But
aye,
some
indeed.
comeback though.
Couple of good goals as well. The first one was like quite poor defensively from Rangers' point of view, but the second, the third were good tidy finishes.
Yeah, cracking result. Anyway, what are you thinking about the season so far? After last season, obviously it's a bit of a drop off, or it feels like a drop off. We've only lost one league game. But what's your thoughts?
Um, it's very tricky to sum it up. I think before the chat went live, um, we were sort of saying what were we saying again? I think in short, I was saying that this is possibly the worst week to come on and talk about Hibs. Obviously, the
This
back
time,
of a
yeah.
another Derby disappointment. But I think it's one of those ones on paper. It doesn't look too bad. I think we're a team that in recent years have probably drawn far too many games every season. And it was looking a wee bit like the start of this one was going to be, here we go again, dropping too many points too early. But I like, and if I was being the John and maybe not the Colin in this conversation from my time of listening to the podcast, I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it is a bit of a team in transition, a wee bit. I know that I know that largely the squad has been quite settled, but I think in key positions we're seeing new players come in. Clige as a potential long-term Boyle replacement. Um, who else have we got that's come in more recently? Well, Barlaser, if he's going to be a starter in certain games, or if he's even going to stake a claim to be on the starting 11 every week. Um, who else helped me out?
Well, McGrath, Mulligan,
Aye,
okay.
aye. Although both McGrath and Mulligan, I think, sort of have hit the ground running in terms of they came in early in the window and they played pretty well, I would say, in the European
Europe.
games,
Yeah,
which I think bought them a fair bit of like
aye, definitely
sort of
did.
respect for the fans. I would say that well, Chaiwa, the jury's out, but I loved the early bits of him that I saw, and I think he could be another one that could come in and sort of stake a claim for a starting spot. So if you think about these players being like new to the squad, there is a wee bit of a transitional element to things.
It
The
is a bit
counter,
frustrating that way. I mean, like, because we always talk about transition when we're shite, right? That's what we do. But it's usually because we've wanted a mass clear out and all of that. Whereas actually last season we had a good season and we needed
Mhm,
to build on it rather than have a shite season and want to empty it to start again. And that's normally your transition. So it's a wee
mhm.
bit disappointing we're transitioning
I know.
from a good place to what's not as good a place at the moment.
Do we need to
For
be
me, anyway.
more liberal in our interpretation of the word, like try and throw off the shackles of like previous uses of the word transition and try to think of it more gently? Like it doesn't have to be an 18-month transition. It might just be a 3-month period, for example, where some of the players that Louis was talking about there just become a bit more familiar with each other.
Mm.
Aye, and you're talking about like Barlaser, who I don't think was playing much at Middlesbrough before he came up. Um, Obviously coming from like an English setup, but a few of those other players have come from different leagues, and I think the old settling in period excuse can be used,
I like you
for
saying
good
excuses.
reasons.
I like you saying rather than because
But well, you could look at it either way. Like if a player comes from an overseas league and settles straight away, no one even talks about it as a settling in period. They've just come in and they're brilliant. They're the emperor's new clothes. But um, it's a very different league, I'd imagine, from, was it the Swiss league a couple of the boys came from? Was it the Swiss league? Is that right?
Cliche was for the Swiss league.
And
Uh,
Where did Chaiwa come from again?
oh, Chilo was for the Swiss league as well. He was
Aye, right,
for, was it
okay.
young boys? Was it?
Right. I would
I
have
don't know
known
it yet.
this. I would have known all this 2 weeks ago. It's been quite a busy couple of weeks, but aye. So I don't know. I don't know how the season's going so far. Obviously, sort of mid-table-ish. Not won enough games in games we probably should have won. Derby disappointment. Out of the cup to Rangers. So not ideal, but like I'm in a much more excited place in terms of the squad than I probably was this time last season. Um, I would like to see more of these new players and see more what they've got to offer. The Cleage one's interesting because it really has felt quite limited in terms of minutes. And obviously a lot of fun. You've talked about this multiple times on the podcast, and a bunch of your guests have, about the price tag that comes with players like that,
Mm.
and that we probably need to ignore that a wee bit. But I think even a player that hadn't come with a heavy price tag like that, I would have expected to have seen a bit more. Um, and I think with Boyle going away on this international duty, I think there's a good opportunity to play him against Livy. That's the next game, right?
It's
Livingston.
Saturday,
Yeah,
yeah,
next week.
Saturday
Saturday.
3.
And obviously, Livy was the last game he started and he played pretty well in. So I could see him starting on Saturday. And I would just like to see a bit more of these newer
Yeah.
players, knowing that the players we've got there who've been around the place for a wee while longer, we know what they can do. We know what players like Dylan Levitt have got and can do, and what his strengths and maybe his less strong attributes are. Um,
He's good at passing the ball, less good at running about.
See that? I wonder if that's a perception. I feel a bit sorry for him. Like it's, I think bringing the boy in, Barlaser, and on loan and going straight in the team when he's a loan player,
mm,
like unless he's, I would only want a loan player playing if he's better than what we've already got, and I don't know if we've seen that yet. He might be. He's not played enough. He's probably not played enough, but he's come straight in. He's taken a boy that played half the season last year, played well. Boom, out you go.
well, I agree, but I also wonder if they're starting to really miss the fact that they weren't able to get Triantis back in, and as Barlas are the kind of more, do they see him as doing the job that Triantis did more last season? That they've obviously not found in players
Yeah,
that we've got there already.
yeah.
Also, if his fitness is shite, like, and you want to get him up to speed, then it's good to play him, obviously. But yeah, tricky one.
Sorry,
And
I
I was maybe a wee bit harsh on Levitt there. I don't think his biggest strength is stamina or the length of his stride or sprinting after folk, but I think he's a good footballer. And I wonder if I wonder if the challenge for David Gray in the midfield is that although Triantis has left, he played a lot of time alongside Levitt last season, and we haven't found the right partner for Levitt yet, which is why Levitt's found himself out of the
mm,
side. But
Mm.
actually, the combination of players that we've been trying in Levitt and Triantis' absence isn't working out either. So it's kind of like you're left with two solutions, but neither of them are particularly effective.
mm.
Oh,
I think that's it. I think like a big part of it is that he still hasn't found that combination that's allowing the other things to tick, basically. And it was almost like first two, three names on the team sheet last season, and so he didn't have to think about those problems. And also, he's probably trying to find a solution in a run of games that were quite important games, like the Derby and like Rangers in the Cup. I think we could do with. I mean, is there any games that are a bit less? We could do without Celtic coming so soon after the Livy game, because I think he just needs to find a run of games that feel winnable. If any of them are, it's dangerous to obviously think like that, but um, aye, it's got the danger of becoming really disjointed until he finds that solution that sort of works, you know.
what's your sort of hopes for the rest of the season then, Louis? What are you thinking we can do? Actually, see for us, have a think about that at the back of your mind. The other question I was going to ask you was about we've had loads of comments in, right, about formations, and I'm not to talk about formations. As Liam off Down the Slope podcast said to me the other day, formations are just a change of formations, just a way to get the best players in the team, right, or something like that. I can't mind. Probably misquoted them.
That'll do.
But a lot of chat about the setup, because we were 3-5-2 last year, right, and then we went to this thing where we took one of the midfielders out and put them a bit further forward and dropped one of the strikers, so it was like a 3-2-2-1. If that still adds up, right? And it in Europe when we were like had sort of Boyle wide out right and McGrath out on the left and that, and it was like it wasn't working, and we're getting overrun in midfield and blah 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 blah. Do you think? Do you think there's something wrong with the formation we're using, or the tactics, or the setup, or whatever the fuck it's classed under? Or do you think it's just that we've got other players to settle?
Um,
Long question, eh? Do you remember what I said
Loaded,
at the
very
start?
loaded question, and I think I need to first and foremost sort of qualify it by saying, like, I am no tactician. I
Well,
don't.
welcome.
I
You're
know, I know,
fit right
totally,
in.
totally. Well, it's easy to say, and again, it goes back to that kind of idea of when you don't watch a game with commentary, you're not able to sort of pick up some of that stuff. Oh, I thought such and such was great here because he was playing a bit deeper, blah blah blah. I think no, I don't really know. I wouldn't be smart enough to even know the incremental changes that may or may not have happened since the team
Yeah.
last season versus this season. I think. I mean, if is it too simple to say that when the more important players, if I could say that, have better games, we tend to do better, and when Kieran Bowie, for example, has a little dip in form, you notice it more because there's suddenly not
Mm.
an absolute shithouse number nine up there throwing his weight around. It's really hard to say, but I'm definitely not the person to talk to in terms of like tactics. That said, I mentioned the high school thing earlier. Like Dave Gray was actually at the year below me at the same high school, in
All right.
Pennycook. So I remember when he got his move down, he left school and went to join up with Man United as a player. And when Stubb signed him as his first signing, I was like, that's the boy who was below me in high
Do you not
school, eh?
keep in touch, no?
No, I was going
No.
to say
You
no, I
should have.
haven't. Sort of indirectly, there was another boy we went to school with who ended up just before I got married. He runs a barber's in Edinburgh. I was like, I'm going to go and see that guy for high school and get my hair cut before I get married, just as a kind of like reaching out to say hello. So he's still in touch with him, and he was sort of saying through him a bit of chat because the cup final had been by that point. Nah, I feel like if I pinged him a message, it'd just be like, I mean, we're at school, cool. What do you want? Why are you
What you
messaging
want?
me?
What you
What do you
after?
want?
Aye.
Exactly, aye. So no, we don't keep in touch. But I've always, obviously, since he first came in, wanted him to do well. Obviously, being like going to my school. There's a few actually ex-Hibs that went to my school. Do you mind Graham Brown, keeper?
Name rings a bell.
Mid noughties, like sort of in that period where we had sort of three. Sorry, Graham, like three not great goalies in any
And
given
goalkeeping
time.
school. Yogi's goalkeeping school.
Was it that?
Is he
Yeah,
not
it
one
would
of
have
them?
been the Yogi time. I feel like Graham Stack either was there around the same time or came soon after him. Who else would have been there? So there'll be folks screaming at the podcast just
Stuff.
now saying it's all these people.
I'm sure there's a story about that boy. Like, not a
Graham
bad one.
Brown, he definitely was at my school as well, a wee
Aye.
bit below me. So aye,
He,
there's been some players come out of Pennycook.
I'm trying to think. Is he the one? There was a goalie that went. Uh, I might be mixed. I might be mixed up with it all, right? But he went to like Montrose or Forfar or something in
I
the
think that's
end, right?
him. Hmm.
And he went to when he was. Listen, I'll make the two teams up right. He was playing for Montrose and they were playing against Forfar. Could be the other way around. Could be total wrong teams. He drove to Forfar for the game, but the game was at Montrose. So he was like, I can't play the day. Why? I'm in Forfar.
Sounds like
If it
something maybe Graham would have done.
could be
Yep.
the wrong one. Could be the wrong one. But that's
Yep.
probably maybe schooling you would blame that one, eh? But
I feel bad slagging him actually because like fair play. If he was a Hibby, he lived out his boyhood dream. He's probably a Jambo. Let's be honest.
aye, exactly. I actually don't know if that's who it is or not. I'm just thinking there was a goalie that done that. I'm just going to go to YouTube. We'll ask you about we'll ask you about the band in a minute, right? But let's go to YouTube and see what comments we've got. Green
Dangerous.
Tea. Oh, it's still like Scotland stuff. Green Tea thought Duck's decision making was poor. Me said good to see Bowie get on, even if it was just the last few minutes. But it was about 90 minutes he came on, but there was about 8 minutes
Aye.
injury time because VAR kept having to correct the referee. By the way, see if I know there's a lot of VAR opposition, but we could have been 1-0 down if VAR wasn't there the other night because they chopped our goal off, didn't they? And then they gave the goal to them, which they then chopped off. That's Green Tea just confirming it's 3-0 at half time to Denmark. Jack C. Vlog says hello. Fucking Matthew's messaging in. Like, I don't know if they'll allow that to happen, but he's saying great result for the women today. Me said, watching Dykes for Scotland, gutted we didn't get him. Do you reckon we'll go back in for him in January? I was actually having that conversation myself. What do you think? I think he'd be a good signing in our league. What do you think?
Aye. Oh, I thought John was going to go. I feel like John, you've been not had
He
a
was
chance
taking a
to
breath.
chat.
No,
Yeah, I
no.
keep talking over you. I mean, I was very excited with the idea of having him in, and I think weirdly, it was kind of with an idea of when Bowie tires at 65 minutes, would bring on Lyndon Dykes as if he wouldn't give him a run for a starting spot. And that's largely because Dykes wasn't playing much football at the time. And obviously he started scoring again for his club and got a goal the other night, although close to not getting a goal the other night. It was very, very high, very high into the net.
I know. I thought you'd missed it.
I thought he had. And I mean, I think from what I heard, and this is all just hearsay, probably you all heard the same thing, but the block was on the wage side of things. I don't know if stuff's come out more since then, since the deal didn't happen. But I imagine his wage situation is going to have changed any, and if he's getting on for minutes here or there for his club now, I don't know if we'd have a chance to get him in January. It sort of depends whether he's getting any
Yeah,
game time, I suppose, between now and then. In terms of would I want him, I absolutely would take him for a 6 month loan
yeah.
period. I'd be delighted with that.
I was going to say, sorry, that I just happened to see something the other day. I think I was looking up his name. It was possibly to see his third goal. Sorry, Scotland's third goal. And I saw Birmingham had tweeted calling him Lyndon Dykes. So it seems like he's maybe back in favour there. So
Like he
I don't
scored
know.
he got a last minute winner for them a couple of weeks back, I think.
Right.
And so he's their fans' favourite again all of a sudden. But I don't see it happening for multiple reasons. But in terms of like the player profile, I would definitely be. I think a lot of the chatter around Hibs forums and Twitter and the like is that having someone in a similar kind of ilk to Bowie would be very useful because if we lose Bowie in a game, who's coming on to do that role? There was
Does
chat
feel a bit
of
bare up there, doesn't it? We may,
chat of Fletcher maybe signing for for a wee swan song, and obviously he's since retired. So the free market, I don't know how long we would look to go in the free market, or maybe bring someone in January. I hate to bring up like the painful sliding doors moment that we probably all have thought about this season, but if we hold on in Warsaw, I think things like Dyke's deal getting over the line and actually any player wanting to sign for us changes dramatically. If you're offering Conference League group stage football until at least Christmas, to a lot of players, that's going to be something that they would be very keen on being involved in.
you would think it would change it. I'm not sure that it was Hibs not paying the money that was a problem. Like there was obviously there's rumours he's on 18 grand a week, right, down at Birmingham, isn't it? But they seem to pull the plug late on and maybe wanted more than what we had agreed to pay, rather than whereas he was happy to come, and by that time were we out by then? Aye, we would have been. It
Aye,
was
just
aye.
aye.
So I think he was obviously he'll just be wanting to play, and if he's still getting his 18 grand a week, like he'll fucking take anywhere.
I didn't hear that it was a last minute sort of change of heart or anything like that. It was more like the wage thing could just be the wage thing. Hibs maybe thought it wasn't going to be as high as what they wanted in the end. Who knows? But and we'll maybe never find out. But no, I would definitely take him. I think he's never been my favourite Scotland striker, but I think he would offer something in that squad that we're maybe lacking a wee bit, especially when Bowie, young as he is, like has
Well,
off weeks or periods of time where he's maybe not quite the shit hot sort of Scotland's next top striker.
but
Do
it's
you
not
think
just.
do you think Ian Gordon got the facts through and went, they're wanting how much?
I just think that he brings something different to Bowie. Well, maybe no different, the same, but better, because Bowie's we're playing him as a target man. Like, we spoke about it recently. They're chucking balls up to him, and he's getting up in big fights with defenders. I think Dykes would be better at that,
hmm
and Bowie's merely a footballer.
I would say so. Like for the little that we've seen of Bowie over the last 2 seasons with the injuries and stuff like that, like I would say he's probably a better finisher than Dykes. I don't know. It's quite early to say, but
Yeah,
someone like a Dykes sort of doing the dirty work and giving him chances. Be exciting to see. Anyway, pie in the
yeah.
sky because it never
Got,
happened.
got a message here for Callum Andrews. I don't know if he's somebody you were at school or not, but he seems to know more. He's saying Graham Stack, Graham Smith, Jack
Smith.
Davis, Mark Brown were the
Who did
first
I
team
say? Oh,
goalies.
that's aye,
Graham Brown,
aye.
aye, because I was thinking Graham Brown, but there was it was Graham Brown. You said Graham Brown, but there's a Graham Smith and a Mark Brown. So one of them,
So who was
and
it?
one of them also was the goalie that was at Forfar and
It's
Arbroath
Graham
Wanderers.
Smith. It's Graham Smith that was the boy that was at my school. And I think him and Mark Brown were there at the same time, which is maybe why I've conflated the
Yeah.
names. But aye, Graham Smith.
There we go.
Solidarity, Graham.
If you're listening. Right, what else we got here? Mickey Devine. Clegy needs to be partnering in Bowie, but Boyle's pace is useless if he can't start finishing chances and staying onside. And he also says that Scottish Cup in Europe, that's always the goal. Let's see what else. That was Callum's one. Me is just responding to Mickey saying he thinks that because Boyle's got the armband, he's playing every week. I'm not sure. Like, I've still been picking him in my preview teams because I think he's a big game player, but I'm getting to the point where I go, I think he's not been scoring in the big games either. So, and Greece have scored 3-1. And a final one, I'll just read it. There's a few more there, but me also said that we've not went in for any free agents, which makes me think we're waiting to January, which I was actually going to make that point when you're speaking, because we're middle of October now. If you get somebody that's a free agent, you're probably not getting them fit till December or the end of November or something, you know, so unlikely, I think, that we'll sign any free agents now. Louis, tell us about your band, Admiral Fallow. Where's the name come from?
Honestly, just a random 2 words put together by Sarah Hayes, who is my fellow singer in the band. We started, well, we're going to be 20 years a band in 2027. We started in 2007, just met in Glasgow college together. And we just needed a band name. It's quite hard. It's quite hard to name a band without naming it something that loads of other bands have been. That's why you'll see a lot of bands these days with weird ways of spelling certain words that feel like they should be spelled other ways, or maybe numbers in words and all that. So just 2 random words put together. But we're the same 5, 6 live members that we have been since then, and like about to put out the fifth album
When's that?
later this month, Halloween, end of the month. A record of songs sort of made up following the births of my kids, and I guess sort of written from sort of 2020 onwards, so that time when we all spent a long time in our houses. And so a lot of the songs kind of from this record kind of came out of that big sea change, both globally and also for those of you who have kids, sort of understand a wee bit of how that changes things for you and how life becomes very sort of insular and introspective, I guess, and at home and sort of nesty, you know. So a lot of the songs for this record have kind of come out of that period for me.
And do you,
Are
you write the
you?
songs? Sorry, John, I'm doing all the talking here. You carry on.
No, you're actually just about to ask the same question that I was going to ask. So, are you one of the songwriters as well, Louis?
So I tend to write the words, the sort of beginnings of the songs kind of come from me, and then we flesh them out as a 5 piece kind of thing before we go and record them. So aye.
What does that creative process look like when you all get together and flesh it out?
Um, it can kind of differ. It sort of depends where. I think we've got to the point where I think it's most useful if I've got an early sketch of a song, so like almost a finished lyric and maybe chord structure kind of together, and then it's just a case of taking it to the rest of them, and we sort of maybe talk about um, different sort of feels or how we want the song to kind of feel, or whether there's any sort of influences from music or bands that already exist that we think, oh, it maybe sounds a bit like this, so perhaps we want to kind of go down that road with it. But yeah, we've been making music together for almost 20 years, so I think the process has probably changed a wee bit over that time, but we've gotten quite good at making songs that sound like us, I think, by now.
Have you ever had a bust up with your fellow bandmates? Chuck TVs out hotel windows or that?
No, no big bust ups. We're very polite to each other for the most part. I'm sure things have been said and thought behind the scenes, but nah, we're pretty good. We're pretty good together, and I think one of the big reasons we've stayed good with each other is that we all have sort of work in other sort of realms and other wee side projects and other bits and bobs of daily work that we're not in each other's pockets all day every day. We tend to get together to make records or to tour those records, and occasionally socially when we can. That's changed quite a bit since having the kiddos and stuff as well, eh? So as I'm sure you know. Um but nah, no major bust ups. We're pretty respectful with each other, and it's probably the old bury it down and it'll all explode in 10 years' time when it all comes to a head. But
Use
nah,
it to fuel the creative process.
sure.
And you've got a wee tour on the go at the moment, is that? Or is it soon? Start of
Next month, a couple
February?
of Scottish dates, Dundee and Glasgow. No Edinburgh gig this time. We played in Edinburgh last November, and there'll hopefully be something in Edinburgh next year. But Dundee gig and Glasgow gig in November just to support this new record.
And is that the favourite part of being in a band for you? Touring it or
It used to be fun. It's definitely more fun when you're younger, I would say.
Mm.
Um, there's a lot written about it now, and a lot of sort of people who are better than us at social media will sort of take to social media and sort of share rightly and interestingly sometimes how difficult it is to tour and on your sort of particularly on your sort of mental health side of things. It can be um, to simplify and hopefully not bore anyone that's probably already turned off because we're not talking about Hibs anymore. The idea of like playing in front of an audience every night and getting that kind of natural high, if you like, that comes off the adrenaline of that instantly crashing, waking up the next day and driving to fucking Stoke or wherever's next and doing it all again and the kind of highs and lows that come with that. If you do that for too long without kind of looking after yourself and maybe you're drinking more on certain nights than you would of any given week, it can be quite damaging over long periods of time. I think we still enjoy playing shows to people. I'm a bit more excited in the process of like making records now and being in recording studio and how sort of songs kind of sonically come together. That sort of excites me a wee bit more than playing live. But nah, I still enjoy getting out in front of folk and sometimes like, we're a very small band. Most of the people listening to this have probably not heard of the band, and that's
they
absolutely
will
fine.
now
But
though? There's folk
they
in the
will now.
comments saying they're going to go away and listen. So
Um, but there's still a nice feeling when folks sort of sing the words back to you and stuff like that. Or we've got a very small but very kind of loyal fan base who have been sticking with us for years and often get to sort of chat to them at the merch desk afterwards and all that kind of stuff, and it's nice. And it's nice when there's crossover as well. Actually, I was at the maybe it's listed. I was at the now it was the Partizan game at Easter Road, and I went in. St Basically, an entire young team had taken the seat where I was supposed to be sitting in. Some young lads that were obviously just not in the right seats, but it was kind of bedlam. And I got in and just perched on the end of the stand. I was just in my Todd, and the boy behind me tapped me on the shoulder and like recognised me for the band day. So it doesn't happen a
that's good.
lot, but it's nice when there's a crossover at the football in particular. And a few folk have sort of mentioned like the first series of View from a Terrace, you know that TV show on BBC
Yeah,
Scotland. They had a wee musical guest on the end of their episodes in the first season, sort of a someone like me, basically,
yeah.
someone affiliated with each club kind of thing. So I think I did I think it was maybe the first episode. I did a version of Sunshine on Leith that you were to pick a song that was kind of affiliated with the team, obviously, and that's up
All
there.
right.
So
I never saw that one.
a wee version of
That's
Sunshine on Leith. They filmed it in the
aye,
Hibs club. Aye,
right.
so it was good.
I was going to say, I thought we've had Liam from Retro Video Club on here before. I was going to ask because he was on the pitch doing a bit pre-match stuff. Has that ever been mentioned to you, or is that something you'd
They've
like to do?
they've never asked me. I feel like
Barry listens.
I
Barry
did
listens. He'll
another
give you a shout.
I did another Sunshine of Leith in the changing room one time, but I can't even remember who that was for. I don't imagine it was for the club. I got to go out onto the pitch and all that kind of stuff and get some photos. It was good. No, they've never asked me. Um, that gives me the fear because it's kind of like loads of people,
Mm.
obviously loads of people there, and you can only do your best. I'm sure the Retro Video Club boy did a good job of it,
He
but
was really good, and he also gave the Hearts fans the get the feeling away off the pitch, which
well
was
played,
very rock star of him.
well played.
But it's I quite like when Barry done that couple of things, but he got a bit. He tried a few things, didn't he? And it's kind of
hmm
waned off a bit because he had an opera singer on once, and that didn't go down as well. Which I thought he was just trying something different. But
Aye, it's maybe the slightly the wrong crowd, but I think in
just a
general,
bit.
like since the Gordons have come in, they've tried to push that match day experience thing, and some of that's going to be met with eye rolls like hot dogs and or whatever, like the American kind of game match day kind of experience. Like it can get a bit eye rolly, but there are things I think that sort of push the size of the game or the potential of the size of the game in this country. And I don't just mean like the flamethrowers and all that. Like obviously it's exciting when you're at the game and they've got their flamethrowers going off beforehand and the music and all that stuff. And the flashy lights. Like I do think I'm sure there's folk who would disagree, but I think that possibly is quite a good thing, just to kind of push the entertainment side of things a wee bit. I don't know how Opera went down, but no, it's good, and I think it's good that clubs try and push that a wee bit, because we'd moan if they didn't. You know what I mean? We'd find ways to moan if the match day sort of experience was the same forever and nothing ever changed. It's easy to be sort of snidey and skeptical about things like that, but it's one thing I've sort of noticed since the American owners came in of how that side of things has changed.
Aye,
Do you
definitely.
think that having hot water in the toilets would improve the match day experience?
I mean, it depends if you wash your hands, I suppose.
What do you need that for? Can you drink it anyway?
Are you an advocate for hot water in
No, it's just
toilets,
it's
John?
a regular question we
Is it?
see, or sorry, a regular criticism that we often see,
As
especially
soon as they lose
when
the game.
as soon as when no hot water, feeling detached,
Aye.
those sorts of criticisms.
I mean, I remember in those early days of going to the game, they had green and white popcorn. Do you remember that? Hibs popcorn? That was about as
Yeah.
fancy as it got back in my day of going. So like, hi, they're trying
Do you know
new
what I
things.
think? I wonder if that explains one of my sort of just like no strong feelings about certain aspects of like the match day experience or lacking hot water when you've been up the back of these terrace and it's literally just like a gutter surrounded by four concrete walls.
Remember that, aye. Louis, before we wrap up, just like I was going to ask like with the biggest sort of gig you've played. As I was having a look earlier at some of your places, but what's your sort of favourite gig you've played or biggest
The
gig you've
the
played?
biggest gig, as in the biggest amount of people that were at a gig, or the biggest
Well,
room, because there might not have been anyone in it, but it could have been a big room.
whatever you can embellish the answer if you want. Everybody wants that boy that they all just see the football players coming on podcast lying, and the boy just picks them up later on, like with checks that you seen that. Just tell us
Uh,
whatever you want. Just tell us you played Murrayfield.
not done Murrayfield. There was
Have you
there was a
supported
few
anybody big? Like have you been on a support bill maybe?
there was a few big-ish support slots back in the day, sort of 2012 through kind of 14. There was like Kings of Leon and Bellhouston Park and Snow Patrol and the SEC as it was because the Hydro wasn't there. Actually, an interesting pub quiz question, like Admiral Fallow was the first band to ever play in the Hydro. Like
All
first
right.
ever band. But it wasn't like we didn't sell tickets for it. It was like a press night kind of thing. I think they were basically testing the PA for Rod
Aye.
Stewart, who opened it a few days later. So, but we were the first band in there. Um,
Good claim to
Aye,
fame.
like I'd say the biggest headline show would probably be someone like the Barras, like the Barrowland Ballroom in Glasgow, obviously a legendary Glasgow venue, and played there a few times, supported bands like Frightened Rabbit and stuff in there, and
Mhm.
then did our own show a few years later. So, and it's an amazing room, amazing space. I'd love to get back there, and hopefully in the next few years we're going to get a chance to play there again soon. But nah, as I say, it's quite a small operation we run. We just look after ourselves. There's no management. There's no label.
All right.
It's just us, eh? And it's good. We're happy with the wee lane we're in for now.
Good. Well, good luck. And the album's out on the 31st.
Halloween, that's it.
Halloween.
Yeah.
I'll go away and have a listen to some of the other stuff. I have listened to it, by the way. Like I know it wasn't recorded, was it that bit when he
Matt,
said he had a listen?
Matty said he had a listen and he said he couldn't stay on the call, eh? So fair play,
Aye.
Matty.
So no, that's good. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
All the best. And
Sorry, maybe I missed it, but what's the name of the album that's out on the 31st?
Oh, it's called First of the Birds.
First of the Buds. Give that
right,
a
well,
listen.
everybody can go and have a look and listen for that. So, Lee, thanks for your time. Thanks for
Thank
filling a
you.
gap for us.
Pleasure.
We'll maybe get you back some other time.
Anytime.
Once you're massive in that, once you're a massive band, and you can get me tickets to go and see Oasis, right?
We're
We'll be on.
just up and coming in our 20th year, aye, so aye.
Right, it'll come. Keep plugging away. Right, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back later. Well, for subscribers, we'll be back tomorrow with extra time on a topic to be decided. And the phone-in will no doubt be back on Thursday, and then we'll be back next Sunday with the Livingston game. So, thanks for listening. See you soon.